Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Oscar vs. Trevor here, joined by Thomas. We have more Sundance. We both watched a lot of things. There'll be lots of reviews this week. Right now, we are talking about Didi from Oscar nominee Sean Wang.
Wow.
Yeah, you got nominated for a documentary short film, 99
Sure,
YPO,
yeah.
that had happened during the festival, which is kind of cool. Great week for him. Because Didi was one of the highest rated films of the festival, and understandably so. It is
Yeah.
very good. It is set in 2008, and it is about a 13-year-old about himself. Really, it seems very, very autobiographical in that sense, and it's kind of just like it's a coming of age drama. Like people compare it to like something like Lady Bird or like mid '90s, and it's just like it is very much just like a fairly low key coming of age dramedy, right? It is very funny. It has its emotional bits. I also felt a bit of Eighth Grade in it
Yeah, I
as
think
well.
that's maybe a slightly more apt comparison just
That's
because
what
of
I
the
would go
age.
for.
Just because
That's
of
what I
the age rating, like,
yeah.
or the age of the, not age rating, the age of the character. Like in Ladybird, they're obviously a bit older, so
Mhm.
you're more likely to go into these type of themes, and it's less likely to be sort of this charm quite thing. Because yeah, as you say, this one was deeply, deeply funny. Like it's the most I laughed at any film in the festival. There are so many moments that are just great, and I can't wait to rewatch it and get those sort of quotes and stuff lodged into my brain.
Oh, yeah.
And I
There's some
think what is
fantastic line delivery sorry to cut
yeah,
you off, but there's some
yeah,
fantastic line deliveries from the child actors, which all the
yeah.
child actors were phenomenal.
They were so good. They were so
Like
good and so natural and so effortlessly charismatic, even though obviously they're some of them are playing characters that you don't like. Like
yeah,
they have a screen presence. And I think that's where the film really worked is the character itself,
yeah,
the central character. Like he's really funny and charming, but also he goes to places where as an audience member you shouldn't really be following him. But equally it's like it's constantly reinforced the fact that he's young, he's just a kid, whatever, and
yeah,
these are things we've all been through. And it's such a relatable film. Like I don't usually like referring to films as relatable, but in
mhm,
this case, just it is because of the amount it's exploring. Like a lot of young people, especially if you grew up around when we grew up, you will
yeah.
relate to a lot of this stuff. And I think
It felt
you therefore
uncomfortably relatable at points.
exactly,
Like,
exactly.
like,
But
there's
no,
some
I
things
do
you're like,
think
"Oh,
you
I
get
forgot that I did that."
mm.
Like, and,
Yeah, no, 100%. You do have those awkward moments where you're watching a film going, "This, I'm watching me. I'm watching me." But yeah, through such a strong lead, you really just become connected with the world around it, and you really just start to fall in love with the film. And a lot of that
yeah,
is just through loving this character. And I think,
yeah.
yeah,
Which is just really comes down to Sean Wang, the director,
mm,
like, to put together a, ensemble primarily of child actors and have them all feel this natural and direct them to like, so impressive. So, especially for a debut feature, like, they say never
mm,
work with kids, and Sean just did it on his debut and fucking crushed it. Like, fantastic work, fantastic work. Also, it's paced really well. It's 94 minutes. It feels like it
oh, it
flies
does
by.
not feel that. Yeah,
But it never feels like it's rushing through it. It feels like it hits all of its beats really well, but it doesn't feel obvious in the way that it's hitting those beats while you're watching the film. Because I do think that can be a problem with a genre as played out as a coming of age film, especially a coming of age dramedy, especially a contemporary, like, it's associated with like, I mean, I mentioned, Lady Bird, eighth grade, mid 90s, right? This A24 type of coming of age dramedy, which this hasn't been picked up by anything, but like, it feels like it fits that type of that type of film. And like for a genre as played out is that to hit very similar and relatively familiar beats, but make them still feel fresh is really impressive. And I think a lot of that comes down to just how well he nails this tone of the late 2000s, and this was slightly before we were
yeah,
coming of age during that time,
yeah.
but it still is relatively similar. Like it's quite weird, to be honest, to see that time expressed on film, because like we've seen films set in like the 90s and the early 2000s and the 80s and things like that that have come out recently, but it is quite a weird experience for us. We're both 18, right?
Mm.
To have a film that feels like it's so deeply nostalgic to that time, but also not in a way that feels forced, and just kind of like just feels like it's existing within the tone of that time, and reminiscing on it, but also acknowledging a lot of the weird shit that happened with people, us all being exposed to the internet at a way too young
Yeah,
age.
It uses the internet very
Yes,
well.
which I wanted
It
to segue into
uses
that,
it.
and you can
Yeah,
yeah.
it uses it so well. Like a lot of these things can come across as quite awkward. This is
Mhm,
clearly quite a young director because he knew what he was doing. He knows the
yeah,
internet clearly. Which is that's what you need for a film like this to stop
yeah.
it from feeling, cringy and awkward.
Yes, well, most directors that I've seen try to use the internet don't
Oh
understand
yes,
how.
yeah. Or at least I
Like,
say cringy and awkward. This film is cringy and awkward, but it's meant to
in
be
the best way.
in the
Right.
best way, in the good way, in the desired way.
Right, in the same way that, like, 8th grade is cringy and awkward, and, like,
Yeah.
Bo Burnham as a director with 8th grade is one of the few directors that I've seen be able to handle the internet in our contemporary, like, how people of our age and younger engage with the internet in a way that feels natural, and, authentic, because I find that a lot of directors just don't understand how to use it because it is a bit scary just conceptually when dealing with something like the internet in a film, because it is limitless. It is not something that can be contained within a frame. It is something that exists forever beyond frame. It's like this abstract collection of knowledge all placed within this one, physical representation. How are you supposed to communicate how it feels to engage with something that is so small but so limitless within a film? And it can get very existential very fast. And if you don't handle it correctly, it just comes across as annoying and like just weird and off, and like it doesn't
Mm.
fit the film. And I think as we see more filmmakers that do that, like it necessitates a new language for how to deal with the
Yeah,
internet.
and I do think this is slightly aided by the fact it was early internet or early-ish
Yeah,
internet.
yeah. It'll be interesting to see
It's
like
not
now
right
with
now.
like phones on the internet and
Exactly,
like
exactly. Proper Gen Z
yeah,
filming will be
but I do
interesting
think
to
that
see how
this
you
is a
handle
good
that, but
start to
it's
creating
good.
that
Yeah,
language, because
yeah,
how the editing constructs going, like showing the computer screen versus to how what's going on the computer screen reflects onto the real world, and it jumps back and forth really nicely in a way that feels natural. Like we had like Searching and Missing in those films that take place purely on a computer screen, but for a film to be jumping back and forth in a way that is a really strong um, and very important part throughout the film, and an important
yeah.
piece throughout the film is the internet, in a way that it feels natural, and it feels like a natural part of the visual language of the film. And I think that as more directors, as we use the internet more and more in a just normal way, I honestly think that this is kind of going to be like a point to look at in a film to
Yeah,
reference and
and
follow with
additionally,
the
as
visual language.
well, it uses it to create comedy. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's
Exactly,
just
yeah.
going on in the internet screen that you just sort of read through because allows it to breathe, and you just sort of go, "What the hell?" And like, yeah, and it's funny because it allows moments like that are just
Yeah,
they're easy jokes to make, they're easy stuff to do, but it's just done in a slightly different
yeah,
way, because of the role of internet. So it does feel, as you say, very important to everything going on, which I really appreciated. I do think the film slightly lost me towards the third act when it was bringing in elements that were established, but they were doing so much. They really do hit every checklist of like coming of age films.
yeah,
Like they really hit everyone. And it just felt like it was a bit too much, and elements that I would like to have seen explored more, like particularly his relationship to his sister. I don't.
mhm,
I think it went to places that were very interesting, but I don't think it was ever able to follow through because it was
yeah.
being jammed behind, other stuff and fitting in
Right.
social groups
Which
and
is why I don't
perspectives.
think this is
So
quite a Lady Bird or an 8th
exactly,
grade, which I think
it
are
it
like
fails to like
in
reach the
half.
pinnacle of coming of age films,
Yeah,
but I don't think that really mattered for me. Like it didn't hit all the emotional beats towards the end,
yeah,
but I don't think that matters when it hits a lot of them still. Like it's throwing so much at the wall. A
right,
lot of it is sticking. Some of it isn't, which stops it from being a masterpiece, or whatever. But it's
yeah,
still a very 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 fun film at its core.
right.
That is doing something interesting with the genre and is anchored by impeccable direction, a great screenplay, and great leads.
Right, like, it's yeah, like, it isn't a masterpiece, isn't one of the greatest coming of age films of all time, but, like, it's very small nitpicks, as you say.
Yeah,
Does every emotional thing work by the very end? Does it maybe, go a little too long with some things where it could have focused on some others to flesh it out and make them hit more? Yeah, but also, I would still say a majority of them work, like, a majority of the beats land.
probably. Yeah.
Um, uh, so, like, especially as a debut feature, like, yeah, yeah, like,
You're gonna have these
not
nitpicks. Yeah.
everybody's gonna be a Bo Burnham or a Charlotte Wells or a Celine Song on their first time out.
No.
Some people are just gonna make, great movies and not the greatest movies, right? And I think that this is someone coming out with her debut film and making just a great movie. I also can't really see anybody disliking this all that much.
No, you'd be hard pressed to dislike. It feels like a very much along the lines of "Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret." Like no one
Yeah.
disliked that film. A lot of people just found it to be quite a charming film. I do think this is slightly better than that.
I would agree, yeah.
But it is on a similar vein where, you know, if you're a fan of the genre, this would be another one to add to your watch list. If you're not a fan of the genre, it's one of the better the genre has to offer. So
Yeah, genuinely. Yeah, no, it's one of the best films of the festival. It isn't quite my favorite, but it's very high up my list. And honestly, the more I think about it, like there's just so many elements that I really appreciate more.
yeah, the more I think about it, as we've talked about it, the more the elements that were slightly holding it back just fall out of my mind.
Yeah,
And the better elements rise up. So
right.
you know, maybe
Because
that.
it's just a really joyful
Yeah.
film that's like also like the vibes are great, but also when you
Mm.
think about the direction is really quite invisible, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's all in the crafting of the tone, right? And it's all about the creation of you know, allowing all of the comedy and the performances and everything to breathe. And just really really impressive, to be honest. Especially when you're looking at a debut filmmaker. So yeah. Great movie. I'm somewhere between an 8 and a 9, to be honest.
I was gonna say I'm in that murky region. I don't quite I don't know.
On a rewatch, it could be a 9 for me.
On a rewatch it could be that's what I was thinking, yeah. On a rewatch it could be a 9. As it stands, possibly an 8, but it's like on that border. It's one of the best of the first in my mind.
Yeah, it really could be a 9. It really could be a 9.
Really, it could be. It could be.
I'm gonna give it 8.5. I'm breaking the rules. We're giving it
No,
an
you
8.5.
can't. It's not
Fuck.
allowed. It's not
Fuck
allowed.
you. No, I'll give it a 9. I'll give it a 9.
There
I'll
you
give
go.
it a 9.
There we go.
We'll
Lovely.
give it a 9. Okay. Anyways, those are thoughts on Didi. Great movie. Really hope. I can't imagine this won't get distributed. Like, surely somebody will pick it up.
Someone will pick it up. It
Someone
felt very A24 coded.
It did feel very A24.
It felt like A24 higher than buy me, please. Is what it felt like a bit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know,
So,
that's not a bad thing.
not a bad thing. So, anyways, great movie when it eventually comes out, because surely it will. Watch it because it's great. It is really, really phenomenal. And I can't wait to see what Sean Wang does next. I mean, he's already an Oscar nominee, already made one of the best films at Sundance. Like, I can't wait to see what he does next. I'm very excited. But those are our thoughts on Didi. Stay tuned for more reviews coming out of here for Sundance. We are reviewing lots of things this week. I mean, we're gonna have like probably 15, 16 reviews on the channel.
Yes,
it's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot. Lots of reviews.
Yeah.
But anyways, until next time, thank you everybody for watching. Stay safe and goodbye.